Sit back, relax, and enjoy listening. RK had made his decision to marry SV as a way to repay her for saving his life. But for SV, the thought of marriage felt like poison. She hated all men in the universe, and the idea of being tied to RK, whom she hates most, was worse than death itself. Memories of their previous encounters flooded her mind, each one deepening her despair. She felt suffocated, unable to express just how unbearable the situation was for her. SV's dislike of marriage came from her hatred for all men, and the thought of marrying RK made those feelings even stronger. It was a burden she couldn't bear, a fate worse than death. As they stand beside SV's mother's hospital bed, her mother received a phone call from their village. After the call ended, she thought about the traumatic days they had just endured. A wave of determination washed over her. She realized how hard it had been to convince SV to even consider marriage, especially given their recent struggles. Fear crept in at the thought of leaving her daughter alone. What if SV refused to go through with the marriage after she was gone? With a heart full of hope, she thought to herself, if they're both in agreement, let's make it official as soon as possible. So she said, as her eyes shining with excitement, with both of you in agreement, let's make this official as soon as possible. How about we arrange the marriage day after tomorrow? After hearing this, both SV and RK get shocked, unable to speak anything or lost their mind, like what was happening with them. They just didn't able to think anything. SV's mother looked at both SV and RK, her eyes filled with hope. She could sense the tension in the room, especially in SV, who had just returned from the ICU, still grappling with the trauma of recent days, processing everything. Deep down, she knew SV had only agreed to marry RK for her sake, and she didn't want to put any pressure on her daughter by directly asking her again. Instead, she turned to RK, her voice steady yet eager. RK, are you okay with this? She asked, gauging his reaction. RK paused, lost in thought. Marrying SV felt surreal, especially with the wedding happening so soon. His mind raced as he reflected on everything that had happened between them. He couldn't shake the feeling that this marriage was merely a form of repayment for SV saving his life. It didn't matter to him whether the wedding took place next month, tomorrow, or even the day after. It was all just a way to settle a debt, nothing more. Seeing his hesitation, SV's mother thought he might be worried about the preparations for the wedding. She quickly reassured him, her voice brightening. I know this is sudden, but I promise to make it a grand celebration. You won't have to worry about a thing. I'll handle all the details. After a moment of silence, he nodded. Sure, I'm fine with it. The words felt heavy on his tongue, but he forced a smile, knowing it was the right thing to do. Wonderful! I'll manage everything for the wedding. You won't have to worry about a thing, her mother said excitedly. As SV stood there, lost in her thoughts, she felt a wave of despair. This was happening too fast, and the idea of being married to RK felt like a betrayal to herself. Yet, she couldn't voice her thoughts. As the doctor gave both SV and her mother permission to leave the hospital, they parted ways, each carrying their own burdens. The weight of unspoken fears and unresolved emotions hung heavily in the air between them as they stepped out into the world beyond the hospital walls.